Hey guys, my name is Tim and I'm the master mechanic of Zeiten independent BMW mobile services, and today we have the legendary BMW E46 right behind me, and we're gonna review if it's worth buying it or if it's a junk car already or it's considered classic. What engines to choose, what years to go by, what kind of body types it has, everything and above, and let's continue with it. BMW E46 over the period of time since 1998 and early 2006, which is almost 8 years, had 4 different body types, which is coupe, convertible, 4-door sedan, and the wagon. All of those cars are beautifully designed and like a breath of fresh air for their market at the moment. BMW E46 had 6 different engines during this time. First 2 were M52 TU, which stands for Technical Upgrade. From under the hood, it looks exactly the same as M54, the next generation. So it had 2.5 and 2.8 liter, which models 323i CI or 328i CI and whatnot. Then the next generation engine, those were M54, M54B25 and M54B30. Those engines, in my opinion, are the most reliable ones, and if you're choosing to get one of those cars, like, I would stick with those, that's for sure. The main difference between M52 and M54 engines, I would say, well, first of all, on M52, the earlier models, 98 till 2000, the throttle body control was directly connected with the cable to the accelerator pedal, so that's exact connection right there. And with the M54, it's a drive-by-wire system, so it's electronically controlled, and you don't have this wire anymore, so it's electronic accelerator pedal. The next engine we have in there, it's M56, which is super low emission. I want you to stop right there if you're considering buying with this engine. The reason why is not because it's unreliable or anything wrong with it per se, but if something goes wrong with this super low emission engine, you are gonna pay a pretty penny for it, even nowadays. For instance, if your fuel pump failing on the M56 engine, it is built into the gas tank, so you will have to replace the whole gas tank just to change your pump. Same goes with the crankcase ventilation valve. If you need to change that, you will have to replace the whole valve cover in order to do that, and that will cost you a lot of money for parts and for labor, and you will not gain anything rather than headache for the emission control, because it's been more than 15 years for those cars. It's really out of warranty right now, and it's just like huge pain in the butt to maintain those cars. I would choose every other day M54 over M56. And the last engine, but definitely not least, is the S54 engine that has been installed into the M3. This is the pinnacle of BMW engineering, and I love it till this day. It has approximately 340 horsepower. It's very reliable, I would say even bulletproof, nothing really much happening to it, and I just love it. You can get one of those engines right now, even just to put in your regular E46 for approximately $3,000 or less. So this is a great buy. The M54 engine had 2 options, 2.5 liter and 3.0. If you're choosing more reliable one, I would definitely stick with the 2.5 liter engine, simply for the fact of it has less power, so less load on the engine, and the 3.0 will have this infamous issue with the oil pump nut. That just happens. So, but it's not always the case, and if you need more power, The 2.5 liter engine has 190 horsepower approximately. The 3.0 will have 230. But when you drive those cars, that's going to be a significant difference. You will definitely feel it when you're driving 2.5 or 3.0. Is E46 BMW classic or already junk? In my opinion, I would say this is a 20 years old car, and this is definitely goes into category of BMW classics. The reason why, because the appreciation for the design of this particular car, like the four-door, or it's a coupe, or it's a convertible, or it's a wagon, it finds love everywhere you go. This is the very well designed car, and that is absolutely right. If you don't agree with that, I'm pretty sure there's going to be plenty of fans who will attack you right away, because just look at it. The fenders are wide even on this 323 model. Then overall, from the side, from the front, from the back, the car just looks amazing. And it doesn't matter what body type you're looking for, because all of them just look good. And the interior, like for the time being, I'm still thinking that this is timeless interior. It doesn't have much in it, but it's very simple. It's drawn pretty beautiful, and it's just great. And now let's talk about what to actually look for if you can't imagine your life without the BMW E46. Doesn't matter what kind of engine you have unless it's S54, so let's talk just about M52s, M54s, and M56. The BMW problems are basically following from the engine to the engine, so there's nothing new in here. The standard spots for the oil leaks, that would be valve cover gasket, oil filter housing gasket, and the oil pan gasket. Those are the standard spots. Then M54 and M52 engines, they also have the crankcase ventilation valve system, which is located under intake manifold, and when the system fails, like, it can leak oil from there. The other spot would be Venice solenoid feed line. The washers go bad in there, so that's another spot. And that's pretty much it. The difference between the older engine and the new one, of course, the price for repairs. For instance, the valve cover gasket replacement, that would run you approximately $250 for parts and labor. And when you do the valve cover gasket, definitely don't forget to get the 15 grommets for each and every nut of the valve cover, because not all the sets come with the grommets, so you might need to buy them separately. Oil filter housing gasket, this repair will cost you approximately $180 parts and labor, and the gasket out there is probably just $5 or so. The most expensive repair for the oil leak, that would be the oil pan gasket, as well as on the future generations BMWs. Like, for this repair, you'll have to leave the engine in the air, drop the subframe, remove the oil pan, install the new gasket and all of that, and this will run you approximately $650 for parts and labor. The next thing, the very common issue, every BMW owner of E46 knows that the crankcase ventilation valve system. And while you do this job, it's definitely worth doing the intake manifold gasket as well. If you have the early M54 and M52 engines, there is a bunch of vacuum lines coming over there to the fuel rail. Some of them go to the secondary air injection pump. This is definitely something to replace, of course, as well. And along the way, if you do the crankcase ventilation kit replacement, you need a valve and all 4 hoses. Just don't save on that. Also, the other thing to look for is the lower and upper intake boots. If you do that, just replace them, clean the throttle body and the idle control valve, and we have all those procedures in previous videos on how to, especially on the E46, and this whole procedure will approximately run you around $550–600 for all of the components, parts and labor. The next weak spot for the BMW or any E46, that would be the cooling system. But the cooling system, it's basically regular maintenance to just service it every 80 to 100,000 miles. And the usual weak spots are the, of course, coolant expansion tank. That's the first one to go out. If something goes wrong with the cooling system, let's say your thermostat gets stuck halfway or your pump is not pumping anymore that good, that will explode the first. That's why it's made of plastic. Between 80 to 100,000 miles, it is definitely worth doing the water pump and thermostat replacement, and those components definitely should be replaced together. You cannot separate them because they pretty much have the same lifespan. So never do it separately. They're located at the same spot. The parts for those components, approximately $50 each for the thermostat housing, because it will be a housing with the gasket built in and the thermostat built in there with the sensor. And the water pump will be approximately $50 as well, so it's $100 on parts and approximately $250 for labor, so it's a $350 more or less, around $400 with the coolant and all that, to replace water pump and thermostat. If you're doing that, definitely check in your fan clutch. Usually this is the unit that can last longer than the water pump and thermostat. I would say approximately 120–130,000 miles. But if on fully operational car, you can easily stop the fan blades with your hand, even though don't try to do that. With any kind of object, that means the fan clutch is going out, because when the car is fully operational, it should be blasting all the time, maximum speed. Other things like the radiator, the upper lower radiator hoses, those things, like, you just need to inspect those. But there are some hoses that definitely will need your attention after a certain time, and those are well, one in particular, the coolant hose that comes from the coolant transfer pipe to, it's called on the catalog, to the expansion tank, but not really. It goes a little bit lower than expansion tank to this plate out there that connects to the radiator. That's the hose that get easily damaged by lots of leaks from the power steering fluid, and power steering reservoir is right there, and it just leaks down, damages a lot of stuff along the way. The last component for the engine maintenance, that would be drive belt, AC belt, and the most importantly is the AC belt tensioner, drive belt tensioner, and the idler pulley. Those are actually the items can make this a little sound when the car is running, weird looking one, I mean weird sounding. Those, if the bearings stop turning properly on those pulleys, that's what makes the belt break. The belts don't break by itself, not because they're old or anything like that. It's just the reasons, if one of the bearings stops spinning, tension increases, the belt breaks. If the drive belt fails, first you will overheat instantly because it's a belt-driven water pump. Second, you will lose a lot of power because the alternator will stop working. Third, you will lose power steering because it's a belt-driven power steering pump. All of this together, it will feel like the car is dead completely, and that's true. And the reason might be this little $20 pulley. To service all two tensioners and one idler pulley with two belts, that will run you approximately $200 for parts and labor total, so it's not that expensive at all. If you're looking to buy one of those cars, here's the spots to look for. If you're looking for the oil leaks, well, first of all is the valve cover gasket, and this is the one the easiest to spot, because if you start the car and start smoking from this area, this is where the valve cover gasket leaks. Also, what I talked about here is the grommets that you have to buy. It's 15 of them on every nut of the valve cover. Then the next one, there would be oil filter housing gasket, but you can't really see it. It's so deep down, but it will accumulate right there if you're looking between the intake manifold and the oil filter housing. Well, it's actually oil filter cap, so it will be somewhere over there, but it's really hard to spot this one. But what you can spot, that would be leaks from the oil filter cap O-ring, which is going to be all around here, just like on this one. It's not heavy leak in here, but it's a starting one. When it's a heavy leak, you start the car, it will be push a lot of oil right here between this black part and the metal looking part. So there is with every single oil filter, there is O-ring comes with it that you have to replace for the oil filter cap. I don't know why, but usually oil change places, they just take the cap off, take the filter out, put the filter in, put it back, don't care about the O-ring. Lots of oil leaking, like really a lot coming from here. And the next spot would be the oil pan gasket. The way to spot it, that's actually the only oil that will reach the ground. So if you see the oil under the car, 90% it's coming from the oil pan gasket. The next thing I want to talk about is transmission, which is important because E46 had manual transmission. The models 98 till I think 2002, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a GM transmission, and after that there was 5-speed ZF transmission. And what's coming to the GM transmission, the maintenance, overall all of them are lifetime fluid maintenance transmission, so that means you don't have to do anything. But if something goes wrong, if something fails, like on the ZF transmission, there is a very common issue where the transmission fluid leaks right between the engine and the transmission. That means the seals of the oil pump, transmission oil pump, are failing, and you'll need to drop the transmission, and if you do that, just go for a full rebuild, or get the used transmission, drop the old one, put the used transmission in. But it will not guarantee you that it's gonna last forever as well. But some cars, it all depends on driving. If you're driving normally, those transmissions can last forever. If you're driving aggressively, those transmissions will not last very long. So with the ZF transmission, 5-speed ZF transmission, the full rebuild will run you around $2,000 to $3,000 depending on where you do it. Parts, labor, torque converter replacement, the oil pump, and all of the clutch packs with all the seals and everything, that's going to be expensive repair. And the question is it worth it? Probably not. The car, not worth that much. With the GM transmission, the most common issue out there is that the reverse gear is not engaging anymore. It's one of the solenoids for the reverse gear, but you can replace it. But overall, I would say the GM transmission is more reliable than the ZF. So if you're looking to get the car with the automatic transmission, I would probably choose the GM transmission. And then the manual is manual. Nothing really happens to it unless you burn the clutch, but that happens to anybody. The E46 chassis are the very well thought after, because if you want a comfortable ride, this car will give it to you, definitely. If you want something sporty, there's plenty of options on the market right now. You can install coilovers, you can install just better shocks, you can install polyurethane bushings into the sway bar or into your control arms in the front. Like, there is so many options. That's why this car is the best opportunity to have a project car in your garage, or for someone who wants to make his E46 stand out from the crowd. So you can lower it, you can put the bigger wheels on it, there's huge arches in here, and this is overall a great tuner possibility. And as I said before, there's plenty of options on the market, so I can't put a cap on how much it's gonna cost you to replace, let's say, all 4 shocks. But it's definitely not gonna be, if you're looking for a comfort ride, it's not gonna be more than $600 for parts and labor, because it's that simple. The interior of E46 is simple, but I still love it. Even though the seats are ripped, but if you look at the door card and if you touch it, it feels soft. It feels like it's a quality build, like the leather right here and the steering wheel that looking good, and it has some functions in there like the sound control, cruise control, and all of those things. During the years of the E46, they had more and more options, like, let's say, sports seats or heated steering wheel. They also had the tire pressure monitoring system in there, and lots of more stuff. Interesting thing enough, like, you have actually 4 windows in this coupe, and the rear windows are opening this way. That's something very exciting for me. That's what I think. All E46s has pretty large trunk, I would say, and also there is a spare tire underneath. And in this coupe, you can actually fold the back seats, so it's perfect for surfing, snowboarding, skiing, or whatever your activity is. The battery located in the trunk on the passenger side, right there under the cover, right here. And there is also a CD changer on the other side, but I don't think this car has it, so it doesn't really matter. To sum it all, BMW E46, in my opinion, is a good car. And right now you can find one on the market for $500, $600, with over like 170, 200,000 miles on the clock, but still running cars, you know, and reliability is still there. You can also find the really good one in good condition around $5,000, $6,000 as well. It's becoming a classic, so there are ZHP models that cost over $8,000, $10,000. And in my opinion, if you're looking to get one in the year of 2020 and just drive it from point A to point B, I would look for something around $2,000. If you're not willing to work on your car yourself, I wouldn't buy it at all, because over the course of your usage of the car, the maintenance will cost more than the car is. And with the rising mileage and everything, the depreciation will be just extreme. If you're looking for something as a project car, this is a perfect opportunity. You can buy some cheap, you can find any parts you want for it. It's plenty. Genuine, aftermarket, the good manufacturers, the bad ones. There's so many things out there for this specific model. And there's plenty information online for everything you want to do. But if you're looking just to get one cheap BMW for $2,000–$3,000, maybe 4 in good shape E46, just because you love it, the way it looks and everything, I would say, yeah, you can do that. But at the same time, think about E90. The next generation 3 Series is just already at the same price or lower, and it's completely different car. So I would question this if you want to buy E46 and you're not gonna work on it, don't do it. If you're gonna work on your car, sure, go ahead and buy one. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys soon.